This is the perfect life I want to have for Dalton. And he's got it on the shelf. But God, how many times have I erased chapters? I've done it. I know I've erased chapters. But if I look at Job, all the decisions that everybody has to make, the decisions that you make that affect me, the decisions that the world makes that affects me, the decisions I make that affect me, God had it all figured out, written in a book. He knew the decisions you were going to make. He knew who was going to be here. He knew why you come. He knows what you're thinking when you leave. It's fascinating. He's already got that written in the book. He's got the next chapter. He's got your this week wrote already, because he knows the decisions you will make and the interactions you'll have with other people, the decisions they'll make, and what that chapter is going to be. And it's fascinating to me. And I wonder if we'll get to be like, hey, I want to go read, John the Baptist, go to heaven. Wow, this is a great novel. It's like the best books ever written. I'm like, Lord, can I have the video version of that? I like to read, but I guess if I got eternity, I'll be able to read them all anyway, won't I? But I just think it'd be so cool, movie theater. Playing this second. Paul's journey to see Caesar. And you go through his life. Starting from when he started hearing about him in the book of Acts, all the way through. And can you imagine that scene? Imagine your house next to him. Imagine the porch conversations you'll be able to have. Hey, neighbor. Paul? Yeah, I'm your neighbor. Just moved in. Be here for a couple millennia. We don't have time, so I'll be here till I decide to move to another neighbor. And you'd have the conversations with Paul. But can you imagine Paul changing this situation? He's going, Gene, tell me about what you did that day with Christ. That's fascinating to me. And you're going, Paul, you wrote most of the New Testament and you want me to tell you about what God was using me? Yeah, I want to know your story. Tell me about your story. How many people sitting in pews don't have a story? Or they have one of those little kiddie books? And you think of Billy Graham, you think of volumes. How many volumes does Billy Graham have? And God's going, that kiddie book is just as powerful as Billy Graham's volume, because they did exactly what I wanted them to do. That's all I needed them to do. I needed them to raise their family to be the best family. I needed them to save their family, their parents when they grew up. I needed them to save their parents. I needed them to save their siblings. That's all they needed to do, because out of that siblings, generation after generation, I'm raising up the next Billy Graham because of that moment. We all have an assignment. Doesn't have to be big and grand. We just have to learn to obey. And the Holy Spirit tells us if we obey with a little, He'll give us much. Billy Graham just listened. That's all it was. I'm sure there was others that God was going, I want to raise you up to be a great evangelist for the world throughout history. And the ones we read about, and the ones they made movies about, and the ones we still getting, they just listened. They just were obedient. How many people around the world are going and just hoping they get a good sentence on their eulogy? That was a good person. We know they loved us. We know they loved their family. And we're pretty sure they love God. But I didn't watch it, but I saw scenes of it when when they were showing at the viewing, presidents came. Kings and queens from other countries came. And I'm sure they cut the time down of the stories. And I'm sure they cut down the people that could have shared the impact